My name is Eduardo, or better known as Ed Balina.
Hey, how are you? Alvaro Cuba here.
Good to see you, my friend.
Yes,
Well,
great seeing you. What's about
it,
today?
I had a few things to discuss, like the Baltimore Bridge, but for those that are watching later on, we're recording this on April 6th, and at 10:30, about 10:30 this morning, we experienced an earthquake in central New Jersey. We're in the outskirts of northeast Pennsylvania, around Scranton, and we did not experience it here, but my wife's family is mostly northern New Jersey, and we got lots of phone calls.
Yeah,
You
we
know, my
too.
it was interesting. My sister-in-law said it felt like she was in a boiling pot. She could hear this grumbling in the house, and things started moving. So
Yeah.
thank God.
And it's very weird. No, it's not normal in the Northeast.
No,
We lived like 7 years there and never had
never.
any movement.
The only other one that I've experienced one in Mexico City, but about 6 or 7 years ago, there was one in Virginia or Maryland, and I happened to be in the middle of a conference call with my plant managers, and the gentleman that was from the Maryland plant had really some pretty poor financial results to share with me. So he's telling me how he's going to miss his
In the
forecast by
middle of
70.
the earthquake, don't
Well,
believe you.
we're on this call, right? We didn't know anything, and he's
Mhm.
telling me this, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh my God, there's an earthquake!" Right? And I was like, "Come on, really? Like you have to distract me?" And all of a sudden, I look at the window, and the trees are moving. I go, "Oh my God,
Yeah,
you're right!"
you're
Everybody, hang
right.
up, get out
Let's
to the
run.
floor, make everybody safe. So yeah,
Yeah, well, not strange to me. I'm coming from Peru, so
right,
there you have earthquakes very frequent, sometimes every week or something, and big ones now and then. But in the Northeast, it's
yeah.
clearly important. Hey, did you also? I was going to comment on you. We didn't discuss before, but you saw the news on the jobs report today.
Please tell
It's
me, because I just read the headline. I was running and gunning this morning. I did not get a chance. So
well,
you're a bearer
very
of news.
impressive for the economy, and we'll have it.
Right,
We'll discuss it today because we added 300,000 jobs, which is 100,000 more than expected, which
right,
tells the economy is booming and is so strong, which is good
yep,
for the country.
right.
But the concerning news, and we'll also talk about that, is that manufacturing added zero in total. No, so health and social services were the highest, uh, but certainly, and our bodies here in manufacturing will. I think this will need to be a collective work on advertising better manufacturing and starting to get those jobs on. But
Now, you,
that
you and I have talked about this in the past, that by our very nature, and I know it's a stereotype, but manufacturing people are not always the best salespeople. And I think that carries on to our ability to bring people into this really fantastic field. And we're going to talk about it in more detail in a little bit, but uh, if it was so bad to work in manufacturing, I don't think Alvaro and I would have stuck around for almost 40 years. And then
and
after
doubling
retirement,
down.
go
Yes,
back, doubling down. Right.
doubling
So
down.
it's a terrific career. It really is.
Okay, let's go.
Let's do it. So welcome to the Manufacturing Meetup podcast. This is our first one. We're very excited to spend some time with you. This show is where we kick back on our downtime and get real about efficiency on the plant floor. As you'll hear in a few minutes, Alvaro and I both started, on those factory floors, and although we kind of rose to different levels of the organization, always had a passion for what happens in the factory. That's where the decisions get made, and that's where the product is produced that delights our
Actually,
customers.
is the heart of the business, is the heart of any company. So yes, it has been very
Absolutely.
excited all these years being at the very center.
So come join us in manufacturing. Trust me, you'll stay. So I've been in the manufacturing world for over 30 years now, and I'm now entering my second act as an entrepreneur. My sons and I started a company a year ago focusing on filler valve rebuilds, mostly for the beverage industry, and also providing supply chain consulting services. I've got about a 4-year career in manufacturing. Started with Procter and Gamble making paper, 6.5 years. Then Scott Paper for another 6.5 years, and then in 1995 I joined PepsiCo, where I had 24 great years with the company in different assignments from plant manager to VP of operations, and retired 6 years ago. And like they say in the mafia movies, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And I'm only too glad to report that I'm really having the time of my life doing what I enjoy and love, which is providing support to our manufacturing companies to make them more efficient, more effective, and to make the life of that person on the floor just a bit more comfortable and less erratic. So, Alvaro, you have a great story as well.
Before going and to your point, what would you say to those guys that are thinking about going to manufacturing? What would be your
Off the cuff, it's hard work, but it's amazingly rewarding. When you and your team can make a difference on the floor. Very quickly, I was in a plant where they were having some serious downcan issues, and talking to the operator, we were able to make some changes. The next day when he came in, I came in about an hour and a half into his shift, and he hugged me. He said, "Ed, I was picking up down cans every 2 to 3 minutes." He goes, "I've been here since 6. We've had 2. Thank you." That means the world to me. And those
yes?
experiences are yours to be had.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Very, very fulfilling. Um, from my side, as I mentioned, Peruvian. I studied engineering in Peru, and my very first job, plant, go figure out boilers and pumps, water pumps, and all services and all those things. It has been great experience. 35 years in manufacturing. Um, well, sort of. I started in manufacturing and first plants with Bungie and great experience, and then start going into supply chain logistics. And interesting enough, that took me to the commercial side.
Hmm.
So I ended up in sales and marketing,
Wow.
and as a general manager. And then even I ended up having my own .com in the late 90s.
Interesting.
Yeah, now that we are seeing this boom in technology, well, I lived from inside the other boom until the bubble burst. And I had to go to a different thing. So I started working for Kraft Foods,
Okay.
and with them had wonderful career. I lived in 7 countries, visit more than 70 for work, and also changed different industries in these global manufacturers and in local manufacturers. So I've been able to, lucky to be like in 6 industries.
Wow.
And then we split Kraft and
Right.
Mondelez. So finished my career with Mondelez, working in North America. And now I moved to Miami and, as you said, retired. But I love manufacturing.
Yeah.
So I continue mentoring, advising, and working with a lot of guys in manufacturing. So it's a fantastic career, and totally with you that is the best experience I've possibly had.
Yeah, it's I've heard a little bit of your travels before and your experiences, and I thought I had pretty varied experiences, but I only worked in a couple of countries. So the one thing I did mention at the beginning is, like you, I'm foreign born. I was born in Cuba. I came to this great country in 1971, and proceeded to, grow up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and get a degree in chemical engineering from New Jersey Institute of Technology. but it is fascinating. I spent about a year working in Mexico with the Mexican Pepsi bottler. And that was an amazing experience because even though Spanish is my native tongue, I really have never used it in the professional world. So I'm trying to put together a presentation. We're doing some debottlenecking work, and it was hard. First of all, I didn't know how to say filler in Spanish, right? So I'm asking people and I say, "Oh, llenadora." Okay, I got it, right? So even the names
Yeah.
of the equipment, right? Um, but when I presented to, it was a senior leadership team, the president and head of the supply chain,
Mhm.
and I felt like a 5-year-old, right? Because my Spanish is what I speak with my cousins and my mom when she was alive, right? We speak differently when we communicate, to senior executives, and I was like, my goodness, I sound like I'm 10 years old. But somehow it was an amazing experience, and as Caribs like myself uh, are not terrible lovers of spicy foods, right? Our foods, Cubans, are relatively bland.
Yeah.
My
For you in
Mexican friends,
Mexico.
oh yeah, I loved it. They turned me on to hot, spicy
Yeah.
foods. So
Yes.
it's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's uh, working and living in different cultures is it's hard at the beginning, and
Right.
you feel like a child growing up again, but it's terribly fulfilling. And when you start understanding the culture of
Yeah.
that country and that people, the enrichment in your life
Yes.
is phenomenal.
No, I agreed. I mean, I learned as much as I taught through my experience in Mexico. About the culture, about the people, the foods, etc.
Yeah.
And it
And we'll
was it
we'll
was
talk about
terrific.
manufacturing, but in the shop floor, that is also a terrific experience in and in different in every country does it different. Every country has a different culture, and in getting the feeling of all of that, and then sharing
Right.
the best practices and sharing what one is doing and the other is in itself a great thing to do. It's
Oh,
diversity at the end.
absolutely. And the one thing that I find doesn't change though is when you get out on the floor, right, and you're working with an operator, you're working with a mechanic or a maintenance supervisor, and you're in there getting your hands dirty with them, and you teach them and you show them how to solve a problem. I don't care whether you're in a plant in Slovenia or Peru or Canada or the United States. That's they value the fact that you're willing to go out there, share their experience, right? Share their pain. And if you can take some of the pain points away, you're a hero. People remember you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I'm sure all the manufacturing bodies that are listening to us have their experience. No, the first time they get into a plant, or you guys every time you are into a new plant or change plants. Yeah, it's a learning experience as well for not only for them, but for every one of us.
Absolutely. And you have to prove yourself. And I will tell you, some of the toughest people to prove yourself with are maintenance mechanics, right? They're like, so you're like some hot shot that is going to show me how to do things that I've been doing for 20 years.
They
Uh,
give you a wrench and send you to the machine
yeah.
until you
Uh,
don't demonstrate, you don't
it
gain
was,
their
it was,
their trust.
and fortunately, a lot of this hazing doesn't go on as much anymore. But I remember in paper making, a new operator would come in, and the more seasoned tech would be, "Hey, listen, go. You see that bucket? Yeah, go grab that bucket. Get me a bucket of steam from the steam turbine, floor." And like,
Yes,
and some people would pick up the bucket and go
and
walking upstairs to to go get their bucket of steam, right? So
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, there's some really fun stories, of kind of the shenanigans, the funny, safe shenanigans that go out on our shop floors.
yeah.
We'll keep it at that.
And we'll talk more about today. So, what about let's go to our topic?
Well, so I think it's a perfect takeoff on the job report, right?
Yeah,
You and I were talking about this maybe a couple of weeks ago, and this it's kind of weird, right? If we step back a little bit, you and I talked about the transition over the last couple of years, where during COVID, it was all hands on deck, every case out the door, not regardless of cost, but with a focus on product supply. Because we experienced things that I had never seen before. I would just say after leaving Cuba, which is empty store shelves, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, for people that have grown up in the United States over the last 40, 50 years, that is like, what is going on? There's an empty spot on the gondola in, King Supers or HEB or whatever you shop. So big push. We have to get it out the door because they have to feed our consumers, people like you and I, right? Well, during that time, because of inflation, a lot of companies took pricing. Some of the pricing hasn't held. Some of the volume has slipped back, and now the big rallying cry is about productivity, right? It's not every case is worth producing, kind of, right? Or has to justify itself because we have, in some cases, excess capacity, and the costs have ballooned, and the consumer isn't that willing to absorb that much. So you have that going on, that transition, and then you hear the great job reports, right? And you and I on the surface were like, hey, the numbers look really good, right? But yet you and I know the reality that we see in our plants where most facilities I go into are down 15 to 20% on maintenance technicians or kind of that mechanical skilled labor. We're still not fully populated with operators, right?
yeah.
So it's
And
weird because
every job across the
yeah,
board, it's being challenged, and that's not the only thing that is changing. It's changing the timing. Uh, is full economy on
right,
one hand, but how come if it's full economy we are seeing vacants, so much vacancies in the plant? But there is also a couple of things that are changing. In addition, no, one is um, the increasing volume. No, the
right,
production back in America is now in
yes,
full blown, and also as I mentioned when we were talking, manufacturing is expected to grow 3% starting 2025, which is coming back to the
yep,
growth moments. And the other thing that is changing is the people.
right,
No, because during pandemic, everyone was in their homes and everyone was used to the computer and things. And now people are thinking about not only the job that they had, but what other experiences are out there.
right,
What else can I do? Probably I can work from home. Probably I can travel.
right,
No, and this also changes the demographic of the people that we need to bring into the plant. No, it's people that want much more experience, much more exposure, fun,
right,
and also they want a purpose.
right.
And so I think all these paints fairly um, good picture of what I'm sure everyone that is listening to us in the plant it's experiencing. No, so
Right,
all the news are here. The reality in the shop floor is different, and when you talk to the people in the plants, I'm sure you are doing, and our listeners as well. Uh, the people in the plant are telling you, no, what's new, what's
right.
next, how is this going to change? That's internally, and externally, people is also asking themselves the same questions. So,
A- Absolutely. I think the pandemic might have forced a change in the fulcrum point, right? Of people how they balance, their professional career, the financial rewards that come with it, and maybe their exterior life, right, and their families and all that. So, and the working from home, I think, also provided people with a view to a different reality of what work can be like. But I also think part of the reason why we're seeing some of these discrepancies, because you can hardly pick up a news feed and not find that a company laid off 1,000 people, or they, which was the 99-cent store I heard about this morning. They are closing every single one of their stores. They're done, right?
Yeah,
So
Dollar
big
General
economy,
also
Dollar General.
announced that,
But I
and
think
yeah,
yeah, I think
sorry.
part of no, no, you find out. I think part of what we're experiencing as well is companies are harnessing technology, right, to automate and reduce their labor costs, right? Labor costs have gone up significantly. And I hate to use this example because there's all kinds of uh, rethinking of this today, but the self checkout, right, in our stores, right, where you no longer have a cashier, you scan yourself, and the jokes that Walmart needs to pay me benefits because I'm doing their work, right? But what happens is that automation is liberating folks that should be available, right, to fill some of the needs that we have in manufacturing. But I think we have a couple of issues. One is the skill set that is, you know, required in manufacturing
Mhm.
continues to go up. And you and I are going to dig into this a little bit because we do think that one of the ways to help this problem is through technology. But if you're being eliminated essentially as a cashier, right? But what I need are electrical technicians or a data scientist, or not even a scientist, but somebody that can manage, can deal with databases and all that. The skills that you have and the skills that we need are not well aligned.
Mismatch. Yes.
Yeah, and that's where I think we need to, as a country, maybe invest a bit more on re-education and capability development, so we can fill those needs.
But 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 I think totally agree.
Yep.
But also, I think we need to work on rebranding the manufacturing job, no? Because before we need to think how we attract people. You
Right.
said it. There is all these people going out of these jobs, but the report today it was saying zero going into manufacturing.
Yeah.
No, so one of the things is how we rebrand. You
Right.
and I know, and we come even in our times. It has been changing and improving, but the picture of the manufacturing being a difficult job, dirty and difficult, and sometimes unsafe, and all the time running here and there, no, in a
The
sometimes
firefights.
dingy, yes,
I have.
space.
Hey, you and I want to hear. I want to hear your experience, but I have literally walked through stinking, putrid pulp that overflowed my shoes. Okay, that I couldn't even stand myself when I sat in my car the next day. Okay, I've got into some dingy basements where there were cockroaches that were as big, not in the paper, not, I mean, not in food or anything, right? But cockroaches that were bigger than like a household cat. But you know what? Yes, some of those
and
still exist, but
and
not that.
and
Not
and
that.
it's not necessarily the world we are going. You
Right.
were mentioning technology. I think we are still far from
Yep.
technology taking jobs out of manufacturing.
Right.
No, because you continue to go to the plants as well as I do, and we still see people running around. You
Yep.
mentioned this example about the person saying thank you because it only had two bottles.
Right.
No, to go after instead of many more. I clearly recall a plant that the line was stopping every minute. No,
Yep.
and everything was firefighting, and the operators and the mechanics and risking and all that. So technology helped us in that example. It was in Mexico, actually, in one of our plants in Mexico, with training on the people and technology. We start taking that line to 10 minutes
Yep.
and then to 1 hour and then to 2 hours. When we start doing that, the people in the line start having time to breathe
Yep.
first,
Yep.
and then to think, and then to start doing many very fun and engaging activities, because
Right.
they were not. I remember the first time doing TPM, the first time that the Japanese came from the Japanese Technician Institute came, he said, the operators seem like cannot be slaves of the machines.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I'm sure you have heard that. So, but I think right now we have a golden opportunity with technology.
Right.
No, since in everything, in machine health, in process health, in data collection, in all those things, technology can help us
Absolutely.
to and give that time back to the operators, to the mechanics, so they can do they can travel to see other machines in other places. They can talk to suppliers.
Right.
They can go to the shelf and see what consumers are seeing in their products. No, they can exchange among them. They can go to the market. There are many things that not only will be fulfilling, but also where they can continue to learn.
It's a much more enriching career, right? When you can do more than just be that packer operator that has to stand up down containers every 3 minutes because this machine shuts down. And it, we used to call it the whole, again, the manufacturing picture it's out there is it's like the Eagles song, Hotel California. Okay, you can check in, but you don't always know when you're going to check out. I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone that's listened to this podcast has had the experience where you come in 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and you're trying to start up a process or a machine or a line, and you're there 24 hours later, right? Because you have the commitment to make sure that it starts up.
Yeah. And
That
it's
you don't
part
do
of
that.
the job,
It's
no?
part of the job. Yeah,
But you are seeing, and I'm seeing now lines that run 3 hours, 4 hours,
without a stoppage.
and they stop the machine to do something in the
Right.
machine versus the machine stopping to you.
Exactly.
No.
Who's the
And
boss? Right? Who's the boss? Is the machine
now
the
who's the
boss, or are you
boss?
the boss?
And then the mechanics can plan what they are going to do when they need to do, and the operators can do other things. No. So that is one of the components that
Right.
I think technology can bring to the table. And I'm sure everyone in your plant you are seeing this in small scale or in big scale. But I would invite you to look and try to get those experiences, because I start to see, I don't know you, Ed, but I start to see these lines and these plants that look completely different,
Yes.
clean and organized and not firefighting, and people involved not only on the production, but also in how to improve the production and how to innovate in all
Right.
that. I'm sure you are seeing that as well.
Well, I had a really interesting call a few days ago with a company that makes packaging equipment. Happened to be soda industry, and they were talking about what their vision is of the future, and it was really cool. So we were talking about having multiple cameras over the machine, and you and I know that one of the biggest aggravators, if you're a packer operator, is to go pick up down containers at the end feed, right? Especially if they happen over and over again. And their idea was they would have cameras on the in feed, cameras on the transfer chains, right? All connected to a predictive maintenance platform. It happened to be Augury. And where the machine would would connect it to an AI, the machine would recognize that every 3 minutes you're having a down can here at the in feed, and then it correlates that to another camera upstream that shows you that when you go across this dead plate, your cans wobble, and sometimes weeble wobbles and they do fall down, right?
Mhm.
I mean, just the potential of that, right? Not that we shouldn't be fixing down cans immediately, but that takes so much pain away from the operator. And the point that you made about what the Japanese technician said is spot on. When your operators are part of the machine, right? So they're fixing jams and they're cleaning up scrap product and all that. They're not really operators. An operator on a good line should be observing, looking for opportunities, looking for how to improve processes. Not there standing up a down container every 3 minutes. That
Yeah.
nobody likes to run a crappy line, right? And technology is there to help change the game.
Yeah. And technology, you mentioned an example. It's not the technology, complicated technology of the previous iterations of technology were very difficult to install and
Right.
took a lot of time and had a lot of approval, system changes, and all that. Right now, for the machine health or the process health, you just go glue a sensor, you Wi-Fi it to a AR AI analysis, and then you get in even in your mobile, you
Right.
get the status of the entire line or whatever machine you are monitoring. No, so
I just,
it's starting to become very easy and very
yes.
easy to access.
So I reconnected with an old colleague from my PBG days, and she mentioned to me this company that I think her husband's involved in. Anyway, um, they make a railroad cart, right? That they literally put on the tracks, and it's got sensors all over it. So they check the dimensions of the rails as it rides over it, right? Looking for wear, looking for cracks. They check overhead with sensors to make sure that there aren't any tree branches that are going to hit the trains. I looked at that and said, "Oh my God, can you imagine, the impact that that's going to have on railroad safety, right? On preventive maintenance." Um, I mean, it really is very credible. I mean, the use of drones now, right?
Yeah,
I have a cousin that worked for. He was the CIO for a sugar company in Central America, and he was sharing with me information like, hey, we use drones to precise for a precise application of fertilizers and whatever other elements they add. When they harvest sugarcane, that sugarcane is harvested at the peak of its yield, and it is tracked all the way until it gets into the ingenio. So
yeah,
they maximize the sugar yield, and it's all done, in the
so
cloud.
impressive. Yeah.
Oh, it is impressive as heck, right?
Well, just drive a Tesla.
Oh yeah,
And
yes,
you see in your screen the people that is the silhouettes of the people that is walking in the walkway,
yep,
and even color coded.
yes.
No, if it's green, it's no danger. If it's red, it may be danger. No, so a lot.
It's there, and I think getting back to how do we address someone's problem with manufacturing, I do believe a huge percentage of it is image, right? Going back to your comment, we have an image as a dirty, grungy place. You work a bazillion hours. If you're in the beverage industry, we always talk about the 100 days of summer, right? That is literally from roughly Memorial Day to Labor Day, where we do a ton of volume, right? Summertime, and you just kind of run. You know that you may be in the plant on the 4th of July, right? And those
Yeah,
are some sacrifices, but they're getting less and less. And I think the opportunity to be a part of this American manufacturing renaissance is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
yeah.
I'm thrilled
And
to see
then
manufacturing coming back to the US.
the other point that you mentioned at the beginning, the technology is a big help these days, and you should check it out, guys. Um, the second is training, and you mentioned at the beginning. No,
Yep.
if we are going to capture that people, we need to train our people first internally for the new
Right.
technology, but then we need to train the people that is coming from outside. No, and there is several ways that companies are finding now to train. No, it's college is not needed. High
Right.
tech is needed, and there is different ways to get that internally. You can train. I remember in one of our operations, we were training the people internally in small labs that they themselves helped, and they became so good that at some
Right.
point one university asked them to if they could bring the students to be trained in that.
Right.
And guess who were the teachers? The operators and the mechanics that were trained in those labs. So that's an easy way. No, and the other that I keep thinking is, if the people that is coming from outside probably does not know a lot about manufacturing in the line, they in these days they are tech savvies.
Yes. Right.
No, and it's very easy if they are tech savvies and they are not afraid of the computer or the machine or the sensor, and they can interact. That's a big jump start.
Absolutely. And look, the technology is meeting us where we live, right? Because there are a number of manufacturing, I call them information systems, right, that feed right into this little monster that we carry in our pockets, right? This computer that we call it a phone is incredibly powerful, and everybody has one. I mean, I remember when cell phones kind of started coming on the shop floor, I was like, oh, we can't have that here. Good luck trying to stop cell phones on the shop floor. Now you have
No,
to manage it somehow,
more
but
than stop them, use them.
absolutely,
No,
absolutely,
this.
because
Sorry,
you
go
can
ahead.
get no, you can get, as we all know, many of our devices, right, and reporting systems have mobile capabilities. So you could literally be walking around the plant and receive a notice on your phone that says, "Hey, we have detected a high range vibration on your fan X, Y, and Z, and we think the probable cause is your fan blades are dirty, so it's unbalanced. Here's the fix: shut down, clean the fan blade, start back up. And by the way, after you start up, you get a message that says your vibration level is back to normal." I mean, that's right. That
Mhm.
beats the heck out of the old fashioned way of your fan gets
And
dirty, goes out of vibration, break.
imagine that example. Anyone from outside
Right.
that you tell them that they are going to work in that environment, it doesn't sound
Yeah.
tempting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to go. Yeah, it's in my mobile. It's different than before, and then you can use also the technology for the training.
Right.
No,
Right.
I'm sure you're familiar in with the body system. No, when you
Right.
enter a new role, you have another person to accompany you and go with
Right.
you to every place and all that. Now with the mobile, you can do it even with someone in other plant
Absolutely.
that operates a machine that is identical or similar to yours
Right.
and can become your body and can tell you do this, do that, watch out with this, watch out with that. Any questions? No, you can even watch in the camera what's
Right.
happening. So technology as well is a great enabler and a great facilitator to train the people, the internal people, and the people that we want to hire.
Absolutely. I've experienced, and it's in the early stages, but the use of smart glasses to troubleshoot equipment, right? In the beverage industry, a lot of our OEMs are headquartered in Europe, and it's not easy to always get them across. And we started using smart glasses where a technician can actually look at a piece of equipment, and the technician back in Parma, Italy, is looking at the same thing and can actually project on the screen an arrow. Hey, see this right here? Go check the clearances on this transfer, etc. So they're hearing it auditorily. The technician in Parma is seeing what our technician is seeing and is directing them. I mean, that is only going to grow, and that really helps shortcut the repair process and the mean time to repair. So even and people learn, right? Adult learning model, right, requires we learn differently than children, right? When you're an adult, and school children, we teach them the theory first, and then we have them execute. Adults learn the other way. So very powerful technology that I think is just starting to blow up.
Yeah, yeah. So once we put all this together, no, so we were saying change the image of the manufacturing role, and
Right.
that's something that we all should be doing.
We
Not
all
not
should.
only in the plant and with the people that it's we are trying to hire, in our day to day with our families,
Right.
with everyone. We need to help change this. So that change first. Technology is becoming a big enabler, and the speed that is progressing and the things that are coming every day, a new thing on technology, and with AI, that's going to even accelerate more.
Right.
And then on the third, in the training, is all these possibilities of training
Right.
that the technology can also bring. No, so when we put that three together, we can going back to the report that we said. No, so yeah, it's true that there is a lot of change. I was reading 50% of the people in general, in all industries, in
Right.
manufacturing, in everything, is thinking about changing roles. So what's that? Is they want new experience, they want
Right.
fun, they want a purpose.
Right.
And we have to offer them exactly that. No
Right.
possibilities to train, possibilities to engage, possibilities to travel. We were saying we are the heart of the company. So if we do that, we should be able to attract
Right.
all that people that is going out of those companies or jobs into an engaging, fun, purposeful roles in manufacturing. But we have to do it all together, guys.
Folks, it's a great career, right? I'll repeat it again, maybe more in the vernacular. If it stunk so bad, this guy and I would not have stuck around for darn near 40 years and then come back because we didn't get enough. We wanted more.
Yeah.
Um, and the ability to mentor people, right? I mean, when I get a phone call from somebody that I have absolutely no influence over anymore, right? I'm no longer the vice president of this, right? And they're calling me up to ask for advice or bounce something off of me. My God, does that make my heart swell, right? It makes me feel like I was able to help, right? I made a difference. And these
Yes.
people have nothing to gain from me anymore. And they still call me. Wow, maybe they liked me. I sure did fool them.
I'm sure they like you, my friend. I'm sure they like you.
Uh,
It has been great conversation, and I think we leave you guys with these three messages. Let's all together try to change the image of manufacturing that is changing. Second, let's try to use technology as much as possible, as simple as the mobile, and from there. And the third is to recruit. Let's use also technology and let's be creative. No,
right,
I think the mismatch could be a problem, but it
right.
could be an opportunity if we recognize
Yep,
the skills that the people that are coming in are bringing with them, and mixing that with technology should make the trick. And with that, I hope that we start getting more and more people into the shops, and you guys start well focusing more in innovation and mentoring and helping
absolutely.
people in the plants.
And by the way, the pay isn't half bad either. Okay.
No, it's a great point, by the way. Normally, the starting point, all the rest
Yes,
goes on top of that. So,
exactly.
okay, great. It has been a great podcast. Thank you. To wrap up the episode today, just join manufacturing meetup. If you have friends, invite them. This is a big community. It's not Ed and I. This is everyone that works in manufacturing. This is the idea of meeting up. If you like the episode, please give us a review if you are in iTunes, or like us if you are in YouTube. And please share the podcast.
Agreed. This has been a lot of fun. If you'd like to keep this conversation going, you can email us at mmu@augury.com. So again, that's mmu@augury.com, or find us on the endpoint. It's a free online community for manufacturing pros at endpoint.augury.com. We'll also have those links in the show notes for the episode. So hopefully we'll see you next time.
See you guys next time. And great talking to you, amigo.
Same here, my friend.